Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
You are watching a Fact TV presentation of the Village of Bellows Falls Trustees Meeting.
Any additions to the agenda for routine administrative matters and or pressing matters that will require ratification of future meeting?
No.
Okay. Public comment, I see none. And unfortunately, because no Zoom, no public.
I don't see anybody with a hand raised.
Okay.
We do have Zoom.
Oh,
They're
you do,
on.
but it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
on the, it's not on the big screen. It's
The
just
big
on
screen's
yours.
not showing.
Okay,
Right.
thank you. Then we move on to the manager's report.
So thank you. So Deb had asked just to have me give the board a brief update. You know, we had talked about a banner for the town meeting. So Sean has gone out and ordered one. Basically, it'll just, you know, it'll be one of those that'll go across the square and it'll have on the date and time and ask people to come out and vote. And then we'll have a section on it that we can change the date on it. So
For next year and so on.
for next year. So they should have it. They told us in plenty of time to put it up. We were going to put it up for at least 10 days prior to the vote. So we're trying to get it up by the 7th.
Mhm.
So it gives us enough time to have it up for that 10 days. So
Okay, good. Anything else in your report?
no, just the fact that crews were working in town today, so they'll be cleaning up with the street sweeping and they'll start some of the other spring cleanup projects. So you'll see maintenance folks around town and hopefully if the weather holds, we'll start painting maybe a little earlier than we normally would, just because we seem to have all of a sudden hit summer.
Yeah, all of a
So-
sudden 67 degrees.
Yeah, so, you know, we'll take advantage for what we can. And there'll be a lot of streets this year in town that are also gonna start prepping for paving later this summer. So we'll come back with exact dates. We don't have a date yet from the contractor.
Right.
That contract was just awarded through the town. So as soon as I get a sense of when they want to start milling and when they actually think they'll start paving, I'll make sure we talk about it and get it on the website so people have plenty of advance warning. So,
Okay. One of the things that worked a few years ago was when we had a lot of that kind of thing going on, dating such, that there was a flyer that was posted, not just on the website, you might remember it, Terry. And also people in the business district put them in their windows and stuff to remind people about the dates things were happening, so they could try to work their errands around on those scheduled dates for construction. Let's see, moving on to the agenda then, it's the Bellows Falls Village Corporation Annual Meeting warning we have in our packet. You need to approve this and sign it tonight, yes?
yes. So
You care which copy?
I don't care which copy. You can use mine if you'd like. If you want to keep yours just for a record, it doesn't.
Sure.
You can pass this one around.
Let's see, we need a motion for that. And did anybody find any errors, corrections?
Oh, we need a controversial article on there.
I know we don't have one.
We don't have one. That brings people out to vote. So again, I'll reiterate, seems to be a discussion lately around merger. And the other one I noticed is, spelled my name wrong.
Did we really?
You
Yeah.
did, so we can't sign this one. Does it need, it needs to go to the printer, yes?
Right.
I'm not. Oh,
Yes.
I'm sorry, now, look over there. Yes, it needs to go to the printer. We need one with the correct spelling of Stefan's name. Yes, there wasn't there. Anyone find anything else? How do we deal with that? I mean, I can certainly come in, but me and Jake might be the only two people in town, or maybe Jeff.
I need at
Tomorrow.
least 3 of you to sign it.
Are you available?
I can sign it.
Okay,
Okay,
so tomorrow you could
we'll
be
fix it and have it.
available in the morning, we can come in and sign. Just because, so that Stefan's name will be correctly spelled, even if he's not here to sign it. You go with that, Steph?
Just
Yeah.
Alyssa was going to send it in
We always
tomorrow.
white it out and just,
Just saying.
pencil it in
Okay,
there.
well, yes, but if he gets it printed sometime in the morning, and lets us know, we can print it.
Yep.
At least it'll be correct.
I'll appreciate that.
And no one seems to have any other error, anything that needs correction. So we do need a motion to approve this as amended. If someone would,
Motion to approve the article, for the village warning on May 15th, 2023, as amended.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any against? No, all right, so those of us who can get in there, let us know, Scott, so we can.
Yep.
Sign it. So here, if you can have this, here, I'll have to change it when we're done, as an admin.
We'll have it available by 9 o'clock, so whatever time anybody can stop in, I'll just have it in the finance office, so,
Thank you.
yep.
Number 2 is the update on Westminster water and sewer agreements.
So I just wanted to sort of do an update since we had last sort of visited this topic. Stefan had given me some emails. I talked to some other folks about, there seemed to have been just some more history here to fill in some blanks. So we did a little bit of work to make sure that we were trying to come up with all the documentation, because we've been hearing from people who were complaining to us about a variety of different problems that they claimed that they had, that they were never notified, and then they were notified and they were never told what the connections were going to be, or how much they were going to be charged, or why they were going to be charged. So I just put in one copy of one of the mailings that went out, that you could see went out to all the people in the district, and people did sign those, and there was a tally. You know, these letters were voluntary. They weren't binding, but we had enough that the district was created. You can see there was a handout with very specific purpose about what the costs were, how it was expected to be paid for. So I just wanted to make sure that all that information at least was available, plus the actual warning from the time that it was actually approved. So the board at least had a sense from, and again, a lot of these records we have to go back and reestablish from like 2007. So it took a while to put my hands on everything. And then the last piece that I stuck into your packet was a copy of the bond that had been refunded, because this was one of those negative interest bonds, and you can now see what the principal is that's still outstanding. The fact that it no longer has a negative interest rate is now carrying a 0 interest, and what the payments are going forward. And you can see that this bond is payable through 2040. So all that's sort of a long introduction to sort of set us up for the next phase of this project, which is for our folks, got a commitment to have the water guys and the sewer guys go out and do a physical inventory, which we will now go and redo and reestablish the current both water district and the 2 different districts, basically, and make sure that we have the correct information. Once that's established, I would recommend that we just create a new document that we will then make them basically water and sewer customers, and that they will be subject to all the normal conditions. There is no separate agreement, any separate deal, because quite frankly, we spend more time with these people that are not residents of our village dealing with this problem than I ever do with anybody who's a true water or sewer customer in, you know, that's in our system. So it's reached a point where we don't have a lot of other recourse to pursue. You know, we're still fighting this constantly behind on the District 5 billing. And I think at some point it's going to behoove us to go through this thing and basically come up with a new agreement, and that the folks in the district, there aren't going to be any arguments or concerns. It's going to be what it's going to be. They're going to be customers, and we'll have a procedure. And if people don't follow, then we'll file the liens that are appropriate, and there'll be liens against people's property. And the ones that are on the system will get turned off, just like any other regular customer is turned off in any of our current system.
Right.
Since it's a user fee.
Are you proposing that we gather from them individually instead of making a community, which was the original agreement?
I don't
Okay.
see that there's any way you'll ever get this resolved unless you do it with a new agreement. And the new
That's-
agreement makes
But
them,
it's switching it to individual users as opposed to the town, which was the original commitment, so that we could.
There is no
essentially get
commitment.
paid.
there is no commitment from the town, right? I mean, you've seen what the attorney said. He said that when North Westminster dissolved, Westminster did not accrue any of those liabilities. They belong to the district, which is an entity that quite frankly will never collect or be able to bring to any kind of forbearance without a lot of litigation, and I'm not even sure at some point what that would accomplish.
Now, it mentioned the two water districts in a sense.
Right, we have two separate documents
Kissel
here.
Hill. Now, Kissel Hill, aren't they treated like every other customer? Or is there a surcharge on the Kissel Hill customers? When you look at our rate structure.
Right. There's no separate charge for that.
They're a
Same user type.
same deal as,
Right, so you have a water agreement, right, which you've seen, which is the 1996, which is basically what was the original agreement. And then you have the separate agreement, which is the 2007 agreement. So those are the two basic agreements that you've established here with varying customers. So there are two separate districts.
but what I'm trying to say is in looking at the Bellows Falls water and sewer department and looking at the rate schedules, we have a rate schedule for residential customers. Does that apply to the Kissel Hill? Are they the same? Because obviously there needs to be a different rate schedule for the Northwest Minister.
Right, well, what you would have to do is based on what is still outstanding on the bond debt, you would have to create a standard charge and then a capital charge for that district to pay. And it would basically be, the district would be, you would have to establish the rules of that district. And the last time, if you remember, it was a voluntary thing, and if you were within 1,000 feet, you were supposed to sign up, and people didn't sign up. So you're gonna have to create a rate structure where if you don't sign up and take the service, you're still going to pay for that bond. Period, because you're in the district. You're serviced by the water and sewer, and that's part of why these agreements have to be modified.
But that agreement on the water was with the town of Westminster.
No, Northwest.
That other district, I think.
That's dead.
The 2007 Bellows Falls Town of Westminster Water Agreement is with the town.
And that has the two separate districts,
The,
the Kissel Hill District and the Gageville District.
right, and then you have the other one, which is called District 5, which is the separate agreement, which was the old North Westminster, that then, which is still, there is no North Westminster, so it is just billed to District 5, so that, and they're supposed to bill the individual owners and then.
And then, but you would still then have sewer customers that are not water customers, or water customers that are not sewer customers.
Yes, and you'll have to come up with a charge, because again, you had originally had an estimated bond payment, which is now different than the bond payment that you have now. So when you look at some of those original documents, right, how much was supposed to be generated by the district? And it's changed now because that bond has changed. So I think the idea would be, if we were going to clean this up, we would clean it up, including going forward with a portion of the Kissel Hill water main replacement costs. So it's an all-inclusive project. It's
Right.
all in. This will be your rate, this will be your water rate, this will be your sewer rate. We adopt it as to what the connection requirements are, just like we have in our current ordinances. We get an agreement, and the agreement basically with the town is that they are considered customers and not any kind of special district. They're not considered any other special type, so there's no third-party billing. It's billed through our utility system, and they're considered 100% utility customers,
Right.
subject to all the rules that you decide that you want to enforce. And it keeps it very simple. And if we have to block people's sewer, we can go out and figure out a way to block
I don't
sewer.
think you can, because. it
Why
helps
can't you?
Well, it doesn't-
Because of health.
it doesn't matter.
Doesn't
But I
matter.
like that. I like the idea. of doing
Because
that.
otherwise, I will never, I'll be honest with you, I'll never get this resolved. Never.
One of my concerns here is that I have not seen a letter of demand that would have been sent to the Northwestminster collector, who supposedly was receiving all the checks and figure out when she was gonna send them. And where what's going on with that? Because that might have been money that was actually going to her that never got to us. And that's a concern, because that's what they set it up, how they set it up, and I don't know who the person is. I'm sure I've been told that name at some point.
We have sent that individual letters and emails. I have pages and pages of those.
I know, but there's probably still money there. I mean, I hate to blow up an incident in North Westminster about someone who's withholding funds that belong to the Village of Bellows Falls, but
Well, again, I would say to the board, it's not your problem because they're not village residents, right? That's a North Westminster or Westminster.
right, but she's supposed to forward all that money to us. We don't know there's never been an accounting of it, so we don't know where it's come from, although the old method, sucked though it does, did get us our payments slowly, but we got them. This may mean we will lose thousands of dollars while people let liens sit on their houses, which will never go away and never get resolved, because the houses may never sell or burn to the ground, in which case they ask for an abatement.
But Debbie, if your concern is that the customer has sent the payment to the North Westminster person,
That's
and
one,
the North Westminster person hasn't sent it to us.
right?
Right.
Okay, then by making that North Westminster customer a true customer, they'll send their payment directly to us.
Yes, but there are two things going on. One is how to resolve what's going on with the person who's supposed to
Yes.
receive payments. That's one. That's a separate item.
That's a
The
separate
second item is if they decide not to pay the bill, like we have customers here that do,
Then
we
we'll
can shut
them
off. No, we can't. We gotta put, he just said we're gonna be putting liens on their property, which we would never reclaim.
But that's what we would do here.
I know, we've never, and we may never see the money in
Well-
another community.
I think if the property sells, you see the money.
I just think we're looking at a bigger loss than we have in the old.
Well,
I'm just,
but they won't-
it's my opinion. I'm putting it out there. There's a problem with it in the future.
Unless I sue that treasurer right now, there's no way I can tell you whether or not you're gonna get payment.
Mhm.
And I have no other enforcement mechanism.
Well,
They're
that's why
not
I
a,
said
they're
the
not
attorney
a,
should send a letter of demand. That
we've
would
sent them
to clear
letters.
the books.
What would be required is, would we go directly to each current customer and get them to sign it?
We would send a letter to the both boards saying that we're gonna terminate the agreements for material breach. And then if they want to draft a new agreement, we would draft a new agreement.
I hope they hear this.
I don't know what else to do. I'm at a loss.
So at the end of the day, if we were to do this and all the dust settled, at the end of the day, when bills get sent out here twice a year, they're gonna be just like us.
They're gonna get a shut off and a pink notice, just like you would if you were a village
They deal
water
directly
customer.
with our-
or-
dealt Directly with our staff. And with you and whoever they,
100%.
if they don't pay after however long it is, according to the policy, then it's shut off.
Correct. Which we've done to people in the village.
Yes, but do we shut off their sewer so they can't flush the toilet?
So
We'd be receiving no
if you don't have any water, how are you flushing your toilet?
Well, you can power flush it. With a bucket.
Yeah,
Well, where
but
they
again,
get the
what
water.
water?
Get the water from
what
someplace
water?
else.
out
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well?
Get the
Yeah,
water.
I guess you could walk to the river and bring it back up the hill, whatever the case may be. No, I understand that, but I'm
So
just
there'd be
saying.
no monies coming in from the town of Westminster to us, though.
Unless they've got
There
some
isn't-
left
there isn't any
There
over.
isn't any now.
There's nothing.
That's
coming
been the
down.
challenge all along.
But if we do this, yeah, but they have been sending it, just extremely slow. And with the point at which you tell them effective such and such a date, we're shutting this down, we're going to a new method, they need to forward every single penny they've received from their water and sewer
That's right.
or their people. Everything they've received, they have to clear the books.
And I don't,
That's right.
I don't believe, we don't need those people out there to agree to it. They just
No.
need to abide by it.
Yeah, because it's our line.
But here's-
Once your attorney drafts the notice and the termination for material breach, they'd have to hire an attorney and fight us in court. There is no other, I mean, the town has no standing. They've made that perfectly clear.
Right.
They are not participating. We've gone to them
So why do we?
back
need
to when this board and through Stefan went to them multiple times. And they said, our hands are, we are not involved in this.
So you know,
And
it's
so-
like,
Why do we need a new agreement?
It's a good individual user agreement. It's not with the town.
I think if you wanted to continue providing service and we were going to install the Kissel Hill water replacement line, we would want a new agreement.
With who?
We would have to create an agreement and that would, customers would have to sign just like you would, and you would become a customer of our water system.
And
Right, between
Or our
the village
water.
water department and sewer department with the customer.
Customer.
Correct.
So the town is no longer in there.
There
They're-
would be no, right.
No.
I,
But what I would say is that when we're doing our rate schedules,
They would have a separate deal,
yeah,
correct.
that their rates would be different than
Then,
our
Which
rate.
would reflect the balance of what's due on the bond that I showed you.
Yeah.
Plus whatever this new bond would be
Yeah.
going forward,
their portion.
their portion of that cost as well. Because that's another $650,000 on that $1 million, $1.2 million project. And I'm not going to recommend to this board to do that if we don't have some sort of system established to where you're just taking on more debt with
Yeah.
no realistic way of whether or not that's going to get repaid.
So if they refuse to sign, we just shut them off.
Yeah.
Because,
In
yeah,
accordance
as of
with
such
the
and such a
notice,
date.
yeah.
Wait, you had something.
I was just gonna say that I bet you will, I could be wrong, but I would assume that probably most of those customers that are out there now in them areas probably would prefer this, what we're talking about.
I don't know.
No, what I'm saying is, I mean, the average person out there would probably be like, this is a lot cleaner. You know, if they're paying their bills anyway,
Yeah.
then they're like, it's just a lot smoother. I get my bill directly from them. I just think that most of them would be like, this is the better way to go.
But if they're paying their bills, why aren't we getting the money?
Right, well, that's the problem between them and their.
100%. And they might have to take
And that's the
individual
sewer.
litigation against
the
their
sewer.
district to figure that out.
Yeah.
Right, we can't get in between that.
Right,
If you send your money in, they need to sue the person.
100%.
Then we should probably flag Charity, I can't remember her last name, up there at the Attorney General's office. And say, remember Coventry, maybe somebody ought to take a look down here
Oh, well, for it, for their community, right?
for their community, yeah.
Well,
Maybe
unfortunately,
I
with
wanna
districts
agree.
like this, because we don't have a town-to-town relationship, right? So there's no municipal
Right.
relationship here. We're really at a loss
Right.
for what we can do.
Yeah.
And this is sort of the nuclear option, but again, I'll do whatever the board directs me to do. But in terms of collecting, I can tell you unequivocally, I will not be able to collect that
Right.
without doing something along these lines.
So the next step is the letter of termination for breaching.
To get the attorney to have those things drawn up, for us to sit down and go through it and make sure we're all on the same page. And the goal is to have something done so that when we do the next round of billing, which is, we'll be reading meters in August, that we have a new system and something in place.
Now, how would you treat that though, if somebody's like in arrears or they're about, I mean, they're gonna be a certain point you're gonna start at, or are we gonna?
I think the attorney is gonna have to give us some guidance as to how we can accommodate that,
Yeah, there's
because
a,
it's gonna be a problem.
Well, it would seem as though some communication, because we're, the arrearages that we're talking about are the sewer district.
Yes,
Right.
So it would make sense to talk to whoever keeps the books for the sewer district. Find out who's paid and who hasn't paid. I mean, you're gonna go out and check each customer.
yes,
We should have that information when you're going out
right.
checking.
I'm doing that no matter what happens. But
Right.
then when we do have that, we have to go to them or try to go to them, because again, I don't know if I can even verify the records that they have. They're
Right.
not audited.
yeah,
Right.
no,
So there's
we don't know how
no,
much growth there's been since then and how many add-ons that we aren't
No,
aware of.
we're better
Right.
off to do this.
So how long do you anticipate it would take to get that data?
the field data is gonna take us a month. So we'll have something to you after the annual meeting, with the idea that sometime in early June, we'll meet with our attorney and have some recourse as to these are the steps that we have to follow. So the board feels comfortable so that we're on a path towards August. I don't know what else to do. I mean, again, we've talked about this now for a year and a half.
Yeah,
We've done, I can't tell you the research that's gone into this to try to find information for this. And it's,
And it goes back at least, out of just quick thinking, with my notes, 3 managers before
right,
yeah,
Scott.
and I just don't know of another way to make this work.
Well, it seems to me to make sense to tackle it and try to get it to the end and move forward with it.
Yeah.
Everything.
You're right, if people, everybody, they're good people that are paying their bills, they'll clean it up.
Exactly, and I think some, like, I would think the majority of them would be like, hey, this is a better way, better route for us too. Just,
Yep.
we know it's paid. And
Sure.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that everything had worked as village. In 2007 letter it said.
The,
You know, it's not insignificant amounts of money, right? There's
No.
$959,000 on this bond.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And it's another 650,000 on the replacement with the grant. So we're not talking small sums here, so. I wouldn't feel comfortable going forward unless that was resolved.
Right.
And, you know, again, I don't have any other, at this point, I don't have a better alternative to try to resolve the problem. We've done everything we can with, you know, talking to people, going to the town, seeing if they would involve themselves, and just haven't gone anywhere. We've gotten nowhere.
Does Kissel Hill have sewerage as well as water?
That is just a water line. Because I don't think so, because right, the
they
high
run their own,
school,
they have their own sewer,
the high school
It would have septic.
has septic, right?
yeah.
It does go across the street and also service the Compass School. And I think the water line does, but they also have septic.
Is there a problem?
So it's only Northwest Minister that really has the sewer.
wastewater, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And it would, if we're gonna go to these water customers, we ought to try to get them to hook up to the sewer. If it runs by their,
Entertain it if they want.
Well, that's an expensive proposition.
If it's the line's already there, that's one thing.
Yeah,
The only thing I would tell them is if they want to try to find some grant money, because right now the state wants people to get off the septic. They want you to go to municipal water and sewer, and if it's somewhat available, and we're gonna be digging, you know, a major
Anyway.
replacement of that. They, you know, but again, that's gonna require major cooperation. And there's no reason for us to get involved or do anything unless we have an ironclad agreement and a way for us to feel that these customers are going to be, you know, responsible for, you know, pretty extensive amounts of capital investment. It's not small numbers here.
yeah.
So,
Wonder how much money we're gonna lose that we haven't captured already by the time we switch over.
hey,
So,
the longer we keep this relationship
This
the
way.
way it is.
I think there was a problem with the well, with the one or two wells out there, or something with a well, where I think the state of Vermont either said or highly encouraged at that time to hook on to the water. That was one of the reasons of running out there.
Engagement, yeah.
So you'd get their attention pretty quick if you shut the water off after a due process.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
so more to
Anyone
come.
have anything
I
here?
have one last question of the manager.
Yes,
So the last sentence, the goal is to have a new agreement for consideration before the next utility billing period.
Right.
Do you know how, I know it's a goal, but
Right.
do you think that's realistic?
I think so. I don't think there's a lot of reason why we wouldn't want to go forward. And I'll work with Ancuda on how that structure would work and what notice requirements we might have to have. So, and I'll let you know. But
Against that, yeah,
right,
just curious.
Yeah,
but if there's other notice requirements and it extends past that, then I'll let you know. But I think that's not an unrealistic goal to get that done. You know, we're not talking hundreds of people here.
Right.
That's
yeah,
the
but
other
like, how much
frustration.
time? You have to give them 30 days advance, 60 days advance, 90 days, I don't know. Gotta be
I don't think
something
it's
that-
established by statute, quite frankly.
Yeah, maybe not.
Right.
I mean, most of them, they're existing customers. Just want to change the relationship. you know?
I mean, the problem is if you read the agreement, there is nothing in the agreement that determines what's a material breach.
Yeah,
And if there is a material breach, what is your remedies or what is your process for? Right,
Exactly.
so the agreement was written, unfortunately, without those specific aspects in place. So I understand where Wade's coming from. In a normal agreement, that would be defined and I'd be able to answer that because I could read it and show the board this is where it is. It's not in there. So those were probably oversights, quite frankly,
yeah, probably,
when these were done back in the day.
yeah. Oh, look,
So,
look, Stephen Gold was there.
Yes, it was. Yes.
Well, I used some of Stefan's emails because he had provided me some stuff just to try to go back and try to find more history because, again, I've heard from individual customers who swear that they were not given this information, that none of this happened. And so it's a publicly warned process. There was handouts, there was real documentation, there was information. So if people didn't read it or understand it, that's unfortunate, but we didn't fail in our obligation to provide information. So I think the village carried their burden. Probably the only thing we were probably, if you really want to take some criticism, we probably didn't craft a strong enough agreement so that the things that we just talked about weren't specified
Should have been, but.
and probably should have been.
Mhm. Okay,
Okay,
y'all set, Wade?
My brother and sister-in-law live on Kissel Hill,
Yeah,
and she said they pay town water and sewer.
okay.
they do have
But
some.
not everybody does. Though. There's others that are.
Yeah, some people
Yeah.
don't, yeah.
Well, they live probably the closest to the high school.
Okay,
But the sewer, but they have sewer. That was the,
they pay
that
for
was my
sewer.
question.
Yeah.
They do, yeah.
Okay.
They pay town water
And
and
sewer.
sewer, she said.
Okay, all right, then we, thank you. So
Okay.
we'll see something in the future.
Yes. More to come.
Yeah, yeah. Number 3 is approve the Alumni Association banner application for parade permit as well. And we have that here.
Great.
Sure.
Excuse me, Deb. Jamie Barrick here on Zoom. I've had my hand up for a while.
We can't see you
Sorry,
because
Jamie.
the program's not working properly on the screen, so we can't
Okay,
see.
so my only question is, Mr. Pickup, you did note that there isn't hundreds of residents we're talking about in Westminster or whatever. Do we have a general idea?
We have a census, but the census that we have is so old, I wouldn't consider it accurate. It's about 43 accounts.
Okay, so let's just say 60 for whatever. How much is in arrears right now that we haven't received from Westminster?
Well, it's not Westminster, it's the district.
Okay, so the district.
They owe us $26,000 for a previous billing, and as in May, after this, I think bills are due by the 10th.
Yeah.
Then after May 10th, they'll owe us 2 payments.
And out of the, say, 60 customers, 45 to 60, are they aware that we're not receiving payments in a timely fashion with these residents or whatever are getting a service? Are they aware that we're not getting paid? Because maybe just a quick mailing to all these customers, not threatening to shut off service, but say, hey, do you realize that you're paying and we're not getting paid for our service in a timely? Maybe it takes them going to their town representatives and say, hey, listen, we pay for this and we want you to pay it in a timely manner. Just, I mean, communication is key, right?
Andrew's trying to say that we don't know who all these people are because we don't have individual relationships with them. We have an individual relationship only with Westminster, no longer a district, and Westminster, and that's it. So we relied upon Westminster to pay us the collected amounts. So we're now developing a way to verify all the properties and allow that we can contact them. So we don't have that yet, but we will.
But and our water group doesn't know where all these shutoffs are for every service out there?
It's mainly the sewer, Jamie. That's the problem. The water's not a problem. We're getting those payments, but not the sewer.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Thank you. There'll be more information to come. All right, the next item is the approve the Alumni Association banner application, as I said, and the parade permit application.
I'll move that we approve the banner application.
All right, a second on that, please. Seconded. All right, all those in favor of the banner, the application, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any nays? None. Okay, we have that. And now the parade permit.
Except it's parade and open air event permit.
Mhm.
So
Right.
the question is the paying for police protection there, or whatever. Is that in here?
Scott, you want to talk about that?
The only police protection that is anticipated is for the dance event, which is down at the
Right.
Waypoint Center, and that is traditional. We are not anticipating paying a detail rate for support for the parade.
No, right, but we will collect from the Alumni Association for the police coverage for the evening before, or Friday night.
Yes, the event at the Waypoint is a build event for,
And that's through the town, right?
Right.
Because it's the Waypoint Center. We don't have an application. for it.
correct.
Okay. This is the parade, but there will be normal police coverage during that day.
It talks about. it
We
talks
bring in
about
extra
the-
police to help with the parade itself, but we don't bill for that separately, Jason. It's also always been a public event.
Public event.
That's our gift.
Okay, so that, yes, so there's no, we don't charge them for that.
Right,
They get normal pay for the police.
correct.
This covers the open air event, You're talking about volunteers removing fencing and cleaning up and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's interesting because down at the Waypoint has a separate agreement for the dance.
Well, it doesn't sound like.
They do though, but they
There
have
is a
to
separate
rent
one.
it. They have to rent the
Oh,
space
okay, all right.
Which they do, and then they pay,
for that.
because they also have alcohol for that event, so they have to get an alcohol.
Right,
They get permission for that, and then they do have an officer that does staff that as a detail.
so the fencing they're talking about, the Morgan Street fencing? Because it says there, Morgan's Field, they're assembling there.
Sometimes they'll put up that temporary sort of snow fencing,
Mhm.
and then they do put the review stand downtown.
Probably the fencing they're talking about is at the Waypoint Center.
Yeah.
Oh, the
They
snow
also put
fencing?
fencing, well, they have to put fencing up for the alcohol perimeter,
Oh, right, of course.
so they put up a temporary fence for that too.
Right. Okay. So we need a motion for the parade and open air event. No, he just did the
I
banner.
the banner, but I'll also do the open air, the parade and open air event application.
Seconded.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And any opposed? None. So for those in the public, that event is, the parade is Sunday, June 18th at, starting at 1 o'clock. So everyone knows that. Last item on the agenda is the ARPA project funding review. We put it back on here because one of our members was not able to do the survey things and get our results.
Right, so
Yeah.
just a couple of documents. We did give you copies of what the original Camoin public process was, because I think that was somebody, I believe Jeff had asked if we could just bring that back to the board. So we did bring that back just so that everybody had that information from back when we did those meetings. Gary updated the form so that everybody, because the last time we spoke, there was, I think, one of the sewer projects was listed under water. And so he just cleaned up the form itself, I think, just so that it was consistent. So what you have here with your display graphs are what the most recent voting was for the board on the various projects that we've listed.
Wait, I did re-vote, because I knew both did this go a second round that I didn't get anything in it? Did
So
you eliminate?
your original votes are in there, but the questions that were added that were broken out, you don't. As you,
Didn't redo it. Okay,
right, so
Got
the
it.
stuff that wasn't there that was moved.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, so here we are.
So really, I guess what I'm looking for from the board is a sense of what priorities you want us to start looking into in terms of specific projects and projects that you want us to start working on costing. So the board has a chance to come back and get a sense of, we have 880,000. So, we do know we have a finite number and we have a deadline that we have to expend the funds by, or at least obligate the funds, which is, I think, October of 24. So we're sort of at the point now where some guidance would be helpful to sort of give us a sense of where do you want us to invest our energy, so we can bring these back to you and start to program the money.
I know these graphs are what the system provided.
Yep,
Gary, I'm trying to decipher the blue lines.
first priority,
And,
but Aqua is beyond fit.
you know, it looked, correct me if I'm wrong, but, Gary, it was, if I were to say, all right, rank the first priority, the highest first priority items.
Yeah.
1 through 5. What would number 1 be?
So, what the graph does is show how many trustees chose it as first priority. So, this graph doesn't really say, okay, water department is first priority, sewer, biosolids is second priority. It says for the water department, 2 trustees said it was first priority, 1 said it was third priority for biosolids. So it gives you information on each other's scoring.
Where's that, yeah, I can't see it either.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Is that- So we're talking the water.
Is it on this
Yeah.
one? Is it on the 1?
No,
I don't see it at all. I'm afraid we're missing a page, I think.
So it should be on where it says solar program wastewater. Place B.
We don't have anything on the wastewater. We have water, yeah,
We got 3
Everybody
sheets
gets 3
in this one.
Oh, okay, so,
yeah.
This is another one.
Yeah.
It's hard to read.
let's say, you see what's. That's the,
I'll have 2 of them start.
oh,
Oh, yeah.
I see it, you want
You
to.
should have the 3 sheets plus then this long thing that's all of the
Which is so
all of the
tiny.
tallies. I know. We tried to monkey with this, but apparently the way the print aspect of it works is the best we could get it.
Yeah, it didn't really allow a lot of, doing stuff around.
Well,
The wastewater.
would you venture to answer my question, or you said you're not really capable? I don't mean that.
No,
You're-
I'm
you're
not saying
very
it that way,
capable
but
guy,
just, give me an example.
Well,
Well,
for example, it looks to me like an elevator here is the top vote getter for first priority.
it is for first priority. Then you look at, I look at like solar program, the water department has more in the upper, you know, you've got, I don't know.
Well, what I'm just saying, if we were to look at the,
But it's by department though. It's by department. So it's first priority for the department.
Right.
Of the fire department, the first priority, according to most trustees, is the elevator.
Correct.
That's just the fire department. It's not the highest priority of all the departments. It's just that one department.
Right.
They got
well,
3 out of
yeah,
5
but it got 3 out of 5 votes.
Yeah,
Nothing else got 3 out of 5 votes.
well, that's
Okay.
because there's more things to do with, like the police department has,
No,
Four
we
different
didn't,
items.
I didn't rank it by the police
I
department.
didn't either, but I just,
No, but the fact that we were able to do as many first rankings as possible
Right.
throughout different departments
Yeah.
doesn't mean that the elevator was our top priority.
It wasn't.
We could have put another one of our first priorities in a different department, might have trumped that. So,
Good for you.
for anyone,
Well, I'm just saying,
for me or anyone, but I'm just saying that we can't
It is,
we can't take the elevator and say that's. the
if we
priority.
use some money for the fire department, the building, we would say,
I think you could. I think you could say if 3 of the 5, nothing else, no other item on all of these lists got 3 votes for first priority. Okay,
We were
this
at,
one got 3 votes as first priority.
within,
The fire
within
department.
the fire department.
Well, I didn't do it within the fire department. I looked at each item.
We were told we could rank as many as we wanted for first priority, second priority, third priority.
Fourth priority.
But we couldn't rank as many, within a department, I couldn't say both the elevator and the solar panels are first priority. I had to rank within that.
Right, exactly.
So they were.
One could be first, something has to be something else.
It is a bit confusing.
I didn't follow the direction.
I think that tonight we should just, what things can we eliminate off the list?
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
Because then we get those off and then have a smaller list.
So then we have, compile a smaller list, then we could re-vote on what's left.
Exactly. I mean, we don't have in our packet, we don't have the
Wastewater,
biosolids
Yeah.
storage. I think that's been a strong one from the start.
It has.
My impression. And
so we wouldn't eliminate it.
But I have a concern about that, quite frankly. I mean, I'm all in for what we've done in terms of the thing that produces the pellets that fertilize.
Mhm.
Terrific, okay? But it's so terrific. Why in the hell doesn't the state of Vermont recognize the value of what we've done here for the environment, for the people, for the roads, for everything else that's involved, and provide us some funding for it? Haven't heard a thing. The other thing is that this storage thing is a great idea, but it's to make the fertilizer more available for the farmers to get it for free. That just doesn't make sense to me.
There's also the reduction of workforce. We're reducing the man hours needed to bag that stuff. There is a value in that.
Will we eliminate an employee? If we,
What the storage
install
tanks
it?
will realistically do is allow us to run the processing of the material on a longer period so that we don't have as much startup and shutdown, so that your costs per unit will go down, because we'll be able to run the machine at a more efficient level. And the storage then will be able to store more of that material as we're processing. Right now, we're limited to the 1-ton bags. And then if we're not there, and we start another process, then that's it. It just spills out on the floor.
And then they gotta go put it in the dumpster.
Then you have to scoop it up.
Yeah, because it's dirty. It's not
I think, I would look at this, I'd like to look at this more as a business proposition. Really, I mean, I think that if the alternative, I mean, it's great to have the farmers take it, but if they could pay a small price that would make it feasible for us to build this storage type facility, it would seem to make a hell of a lot more
Well, I don't
sense.
think that's gonna happen. I mean, not at the price it would cost to charge for it to build the unit.
Well, we
or to
put
buy it.
an intended use, in the statewide program, we put in a $2 million project request, which also included, if you guys remember, we were gonna flood proof some of our buildings. We were gonna do some heat recapture. We also put in for some heavy maintenance on part of our process in the plant itself. And then the fourth piece of it was this long-term storage and making the system able to run at longer hours so that it would be efficient and more efficient. And that was roughly 2 million by the estimate of the engineers. They put that into the statewide process, and we're waiting to hear back what we get from the state. I don't disagree with Jigs. At some point, whatever our funding level is, I think we should be making an argument to the state that we should be considered almost a special, we should become basically a demonstration
Absolutely.
facility for the rest of the state and say, this is what you can do, and you don't have to take this stuff to a landfill. And the system works, and this is how it works, and you have a product that's a Class A biosolid.
We should be showcasing it.
Right now, the state's reimbursing it roughly, they're historically doing about a 50% match, but I think we should deserve a higher match. I agree with you. Because of the unique opportunity that this presents to the state. They're gonna lose eventually, they're gonna shut down that landfill. It's gonna happen. And when it does, I don't know what processors are going to do with their wet material. I suppose at some point they'll have to find a place out of state to haul it to. New York's the closest place. And if I'm New York, I'm not so sure I'm thrilled about that idea. And if I am, I'm gonna charge you a substantial amount of money to haul your waste.
So like, we haven't really discussed some of these things, but like I said, I think what we've done is terrific. But I think the second part of it needs to be it's kind of like a business proposition.
Yeah, I think before we vote on any of it, that there does need to be substantiated data.
But there's
then-
still
then
no
it's
harm
worth-
in
it's
reducing
worth-
the number of items we have
Right, which is what I
considered to spend money on.
Right.
proposed.
All right, let's start eliminating instead.
So I could just briefly
Can you
tell
help
you
me?
the 3 items that are on the sewer treatment plant.
Sure.
Solar program at the wastewater treatment plant had 5 votes. 2 of them were for 4th priority, 1 for 3rd priority, 1 for 2nd priority, 1 for 1st priority.
Where was this?
That's the one we don't have in
Solar
here.
program at the wastewater treatment. To replace dated wastewater mains,
Okay,
that
that's
had 3 votes for 2nd priority and 2 votes for 3rd priority. The biosolid storage had 2 votes for 1st priority and 2 votes for 2nd priority.
those are the 3 items we have. We just don't have it in this package. It was in the last one.
I didn't think I rated in that high.
And so just when you eliminate items and want them to come back to vote on, you ask for some type of online like polling mechanism. But if you would just allow me to design something in a spreadsheet, it would be easier to analyze. It could be sorted and graphs created how we wanted them. You just wouldn't be able to go online and click on a form. You'd have to fill it out.
Nothing. This is just this is our, what, second pass?
Right.
We're trying to come up with something that we could recognize and eliminate the projects we didn't think.
Well, it looks like this one sheet here could go.
Which one? Which one is it?
So it's not numbered.
Oh, well, yeah, some of that could go right now.
The broadband infrastructure,
Yeah,
municipal organization and community expectations.
Except I'd like to comment on the community expectations. And we had a public forum.
What one is it?
Is it
This one.
Is it this one?
Yeah.
Is that one? Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I'm surprised that, we had a forum to ask the community what their expectations were, and it comes down to 5 people making a decision, and the majority of us are saying that it's not important to invest 25% of that money towards what the community is.
Well, that's why, this is why I recommended $200,000 be set aside, or at least some number that we come to an agreement on, in order to provide seed capital at the very least for certain projects that the community wanted.
But
And we only.
I don't understand that. I mean, look at the difficulty. The town has a loan. Okay, and from what, I don't see reports, but it seemed to me like we make very few loans. Very few loans.
The revolving loan.
Yeah, and so this seed capital thing, who is going to be
This doesn't say seed capital, this says
well, she mentioned. seed
I said
capital.
that word,
to invest $200,000 of the ARPA funds for projects set by the community expectations. I took that to understand the results of the
of all of that work we did.
the public forum that we had.
Well, but I would rather, I have no objection to that, but where, do any of those of their top priorities
They do, but the results,
come in?
solar does for,
Yes, as a matter of fact, for the village, that's the only one.
but the answer
That
doesn't
we're looking
reflect the question
No,
is
it
separate from solar.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the community is the people that participated in that is a subset of the community.
It was
So are
50
we.
people from our community who decided it was important enough to show up to speak their voice. And we are to represent the community. And for me,
Right.
it's surprising that we wouldn't take 25% of that money. Well, first of all, as a board, I think we should be encouraging as much engagement as possible. So those that come out and engage, for us to then turn around and say, thank you for engaging, but that information from that evening wasn't rated highly in our own questionnaire, to me is crazy.
I think, you know, this solar, there's a move in Vermont, okay, to make Vermont energy independent, okay? The whole world around us isn't buying into it. We're making great strides.
That's not correct.
We have made great strides. And I think that the solar, when you invest in solar and you're a municipality, you give up, there's no tax benefits. The investment in solar should be structured such that the investor who will get tax benefits from the structure is involved in.
Right. My comment had nothing to do with solar. My comment had to do with the results of that question.
So what is the big issues that they were in favor of?
It doesn't matter what the big issues were. Are we willing to put 25% of the money that was provided to us to support what the community expectations are? And then we have 75% decide what we feel makes sense for the ARPA funds. That's what the question.
That's what this question was about.
And what the results illuminate is that the majority of our board, I found that, well, 44 out of 5 people responded. 2 of those 4 said it wasn't important. One of them said that it was the 5th priority and one said it was first priority. To me, those results don't speak well of us representing the community.
I disagree. I respectfully disagree.
That's fine.
But
the solar aspect is altogether different.
It is, but it
If
is on the
community wants to spend-
Comoin report. Look at the Comoin report. It shows
we
the
willing to
3
allow
top
them?
priorities for the village, and solar is the middle one.
Which
It's
I'm
the
fine,
only one that's on our stuff.
right?
We have, none of the other items are on here.
So if solar doesn't come up as our top priority, then the community has $200,000 to decide that that's what they want to
But
do.
yes, but because we only have a certain date by which we have to allocate that, we have to tell the state what we're doing with it. We have to do that by, what was it, 2024?
Right, so I just wouldn't be, if solar is not a priority with our 75% of the funding, we make it a priority in the $200,000 of funding that we say this is representing. We have made $200,000 available to represent the results of the public process.
Yes, but we'll need to separate that out within the year, so that's the other thing.
So that was my frustration.
Okay, well, that's just the bottom one. There's 2 other columns. that
so
aren't
we're not
really
making
have
any
one.
progress.
No, we're
here.
not.
So that last sheet, I think we can get rid of,
What's the last?
which was the one we were just talking.
We don't have any
about.
number.
So the
They're
one
not,
we
yeah,
were
they're not
talking
numbered,
about.
but the one we were
How
just talking about.
important is the invest ARPA funds in broadband?
Yeah.
That one?
That, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So those, there's not enough support on any of that to.
How important is to invest the funds in the police department?
Oh, there it is.
I just picked the first, the page here.
Yes, no, it's, yeah, it's the bottom one. Oh, wait, there's 2, I think.
So I
Wait,
would say
I
in
have
the
to-
police funds, the cloud system, to me, appears to have the highest level of support because you have 40% of the response was first priority, 40% was third, and one was.
Right, the cloud system has the most support.
Has the greatest weight.
Yeah, well, of course, the Sallyport has 2, and the cloud system has 2. For first priority.
First, but then the cloud system has third priority and fourth priority.
More participation by the
Sally
trustees.
or has,
I thought we already funded the cloud.
First phase of it.
First phase,
there's more that has to be done.
And how much?
So we had put 30,000 away, if you remember.
Yeah,
And that depends on the Axon, and that whole thing we won't know until May. And then we had a $10,000 grant to potentially offset some of that cost, and then there's a second phase to it, Jason, which we have not fully costed out yet.
So we don't know.
Okay, great. So
Yes.
does it make sense to just go through by departments and pick the one item that would be retained to be considered? It doesn't mean it goes through, it just means.
well, I think we ought to put the Sally Port there. But I mean, 2 of 5 made it a first priority.
3
But
said
maybe,
it was
well, let's look at the rest
yeah.
of them.
And then the elevator has,
The elevator seems to have a,
and solar panels do not.
on that building. I think some other things will need to be done in that building for solar, or whatever.
It's not the ideal location.
That's a tough roof for
That
solar.
system with skylights
Yeah.
and penetrations and.
Well, that's the building, a
Traffic.
building that we have tried alternative energy on. They had that pellet thing, which was apparently the wrong size when it was purchased. That's what I was told. And then they didn't really want to keep stocking it, so. So why do I have 2 pages that don't have the same police stuff on it? That's weird.
Yeah, I have that too.
Yeah, right. So let's go, we'll go to water department. We don't have the page on wastewater, but Gary did tell us what those things were, so.
Not seeing it, I don't know if we're weighted higher. And wastewater.
To the wastewater, which weighted higher?
I'm sorry, 1 second.
In the wastewater, the biosolids
Yep.
had 2 votes for first priority and 2 votes for second priority.
Yeah. So that would be-
That'd be the- behind.
Replacing the dated wastewater mains.
Yeah.
Probably did the worst. It had 2 for second priority and 3 for third priority. Solar program had 1 first priority, 1 second priority, 1 third priority, and 2 fourth priority.
so the biosolids was
the biggest solar, and then solar was the strongest for the water department.
For the water.
is that the one where? So 1 first place
2 second,
of this.
2 third place, 1 fourth, and 1 off the chart. Whatever that one is. There's 2 different greens here. Are we going to, or are we not going to participate in GRAS? I'd say that looking at whether it's $50,000 or
You got-
facility housing
got
You got
3.
60% of the board with a first priority, that's who we are.
as a 3 for the first item,
The boiler? Yeah.
50,000.
We just finished a submission for that project today for CDBG funds. So she's still working on a funding stack. She's not fully funded, and I think, what is it, 500,000, Gary, that we applied for today?
Yes.
So
So let's see, that takes us down to 5 items with the highest. So we have,
got 2 police department.
Well, we didn't
No.
go through.
What did we
the
miss?
Town and village owned properties, but a big long, this one.
is that more stuff?
Yeah, it is.
So I can't read it.
Weatherization and energy audits is the first one, which has,
Not interested,
yeah, so
or any,
I would say,
so that's a no. Although I thought those things could be done for free. Energy audits. I know that they're asking for, which is, isn't it Margot Gia? Who is it, who's asking us to get involved with audits, with energy audits?
well, we're working on a state program for funds for, you have to go through their process in order to be eligible for a $500,000 grant,
Uh-huh,
which we're hoping to be able to use on the roof of this building.
okay,
I don't
So-
think anything could cut much here on this.
no, much. Okay, no,
A lot more negatives on this one than
Yeah.
positives.
remove or render unsalvageable housing capable for redevelopment. That would be tear downs, I'm assuming that's what that means, it says not interested,
Tear downs and prepare for, development.
redevelopment, yeah. Sidewalk improvements, again, it's a town item, we said not interested,
Well, it was, my proposal was to
is that two to one,
to
one,
match
one?
it 2 to 1. The reality is the sidewalks are, when it's tax dollars, they're a priority for their responsibility.
Of the town, yeah.
It's a town responsibility.
The town responsibility when it's tax generated revenue.
Yeah.
And yet we're the ones with the biggest amount of sidewalks, largest amount of sidewalks. And it was an opportunity to leverage the money to say, we're willing to participate, to show you that this is a priority for those of us who are both village and Rockingham residents. And get something done, because it's tax dollars, it doesn't appear as high in the priority list of
And,
expenditures.
well,
So
for instance, the very next item, which is the stair next to the sidewalk,
Yeah.
which have never been fixed,
they're
and they
crumbling.
never consider it a priority.
Well, they
Town
catch
level.
them every once in a while.
Yeah,
We
right,
have this liability, we get a
Town
liability,
has a liability.
but we as a community have a liability outside of the dollars, which is people's experience of the community when you've got crumbling stairs and
right,
sidewalks.
but years ago, we
You
get,
walk on the sidewalk, you go pavement, sidewalk crumbling, pavement, granite curb, asphalt curb. It's like, who are we?
but if the village had considered that important, we should never have gotten rid of our own highway department, which some decades we did, and gave with an agreement, which we have in writing, that the town handles the lights and the sidewalks and one other thing.
What I
If we've
saw,
got a concern with the funding for sidewalks, we should be talking to the select board.
Well, this would be the right time to do it because we just approved the paving contract. And so the paving came in under what we had originally anticipated. So there will be some extra money. One of the things I'm going to propose to the select board is they take some of that additional money and put it into additional sidewalk. So we carried over sidewalk money from the prior year. So we have an opportunity, if we match some of those funds, we could do $100,000 to $125,000 worth of sidewalk work this year. And I think to Jeff's point, if the village wanted to match some of that, you could do substantially more, because all of these contractors will give you a better price if you have a larger amount of square feet to bid, because they obviously can stay and make more money. So mobilization and demobilization is their biggest, cost, waste of their time. And we have not invested in sidewalks realistically anywhere near to the level that we should.
No, the town has put it off for a very long time.
I can
Well-
remember it as a kid, I can't remember it since.
It's been hit or miss and sporadic at best. This would be the first full scale opportunity to try to do some real sidewalk improvements.
Well, we used to try to do a little bit each year.
But there was, like prior, I mean, that in the last 10 years, we did a little here, a
It's
little there, but we
the
skipped a lot.
select board sets the priorities.
Right.
So, we should be complaining to the select board.
But I think it's also an opportunity, like, if we were talking about, our
I know, I
tax
heard what
dollars.
you said. I hear what you're saying, but I'm just saying that it seems to me that there's other opportunities. It's only $800,000. I mean, it's just,
And we're talking about building new infrastructure rather than taking care of the infrastructure that's, we deal with every day.
we're not, well,
It's roughly $20 of linear foot roughly for sidewalks, somewhere in that neighborhood. I think when you start doing the pricing, I think it's somewhere close to that.
That's cement or asphalt?
Cement.
Cement.
I would not recommend asphalt for the village.
No.
There are
No,
areas
I
where
agree
it
with
just shouldn't be asphalt. Not to mention how quickly that crumbles.
Anyway, so we've got, we can eliminate, what on this list can we retain?
Well, apparently nobody wanted to put any money into the gatehouse repair at all. Basically, there's a list of priorities, but no support from only one person each. I'm not sure it was meant by Atkinson and School Street, I'm assuming, that we already have a program started about.
Well, we do have the grant to do the alternatives analysis, and the goal we're hoping is to be able to then qualify for state funds for whatever improvements they recommend on the next round of funding for that.
Definitely don't think we should put the money into the new Arch Bridge. That belongs to New Hampshire.
I mean, the other sidewalk funding issue that we really have to resolve with the town is these bump outs in the downtown that need replacement and updating too. Each of those locations costs 5,000 to 10,000 or more to fix and replace. And if we do it with appropriate ADA, handicapped, accessible, truncated domes and do the appropriate updates, it can be $30,000 or $40,000 for some of these
Well, the
locations.
previous highway guy had the answer for it. He said, just take them all out. He hates them. I mean, I think they make the village look better, but I understand his concern, just the same when we used to have,
When you say,
parking meters.
when you say bump outs, is it the projections into the,
Yes, because that's a part of the crosswalk.
in front of the coffee shop where the
The
bricks are?
one in front of the
Stepping a whole
coffee
lot
shop
everywhere.
needs to be redone, one in front of
The
the,
whole 6 inches deep. And
one in front of the antique store needs to be replaced.
Yeah,
Um,
they get bad. I mean, we did pavers just a few years ago.
Right, they took a couple, 2 or 3 of them were completely redone
Yeah, like in front of the J and H and,
just before,
So is that just not an improper base?
We did it up here too, right up front.
yeah.
Or the bricks are not right for that application?
I'm gonna get myself in trouble because there's 2 ways to do these, right? There's the old fashioned way, I'll put it that way, where you cut brick and you lay it in some sort of bedding and then you know, we live in Vermont, so things freeze and thaw and things heave and things get displaced. And the other way to do it is to do stamped concrete, which is not as traditional and does not look, it's a different look, but it does serve the same purpose and it lasts significantly longer.
I believe at the time we explored that, Windsor had some pretty good examples of stamped concrete. And that's, I believe what I had suggested, but it wasn't cosmetically appealing to.
Stamped
Other
concrete
people
cuts
at
the
the time.
cost by almost
I
50%.
bet it does.
And those are stained to be brick.
Change the colors
Oh,
to
yeah.
red.
Do whatever color you want.
They also have forms, you can overlay them or they actually have,
what they did over at the fireman's park.
correct,
Okay,
The entrance there, it's all stamped concrete.
correct.
You like almost, yeah,
okay.
yeah, you can do it for a number of different things.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the way I'd go. You know,
Right.
You're spending money, village money on town projects too.
Yeah.
So,
The kids spend a lot of time on, especially the ones around the trees, the part around the trees, and pick those up pretty bad. But I know that the bump outs do need work. They get a lot of wear and tear. Plows don't help either.
Oh, but the brick looks nice when it's fixed.
When it's fixed, yeah, it does.
It does.
It's not practical. All right, so we got a few things here to.
Yeah, well, the other pages besides this one, we did get down to one per department. So we could get a revised one for the next meeting.
Right.
So you'd like us to do one priority for water, for sewer, for police and fire,
Yeah.
and then a general public,
Yeah,
whatever that might be?
But what, all due respect, I have no idea what this 200,000. What do? You just say here. throw it
no,
in the air,
you have to designate the projects.
My,
So,
my concern would be, after this money's gone, it should be stuff that's not gonna require additional tax dollars to fund
right,
to run, or to operate, or to
Right.
abnormally, yeah.
well, for instance, we could take the 200,000 and take the 50,000 for the grass boiler and use that as part of the funding stack. That is one of the things that
Yeah,
the community wanted,
Oh, yeah.
was to help fix that.
That's what I think. I think
And
if
so
we pick-
that'd be part of that.
if we pick items, we can certainly identify.
yeah, if we could, like a running tally of how much we propose to spend, so we know exactly if we wanted to change the figures, what we would be spending. You know, it's $200,000 is a huge commitment.
But just real quickly.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it disappears quickly.
Gary, could you?
When everybody's
redo it
got a
with
handout.
Another format that you want to use, using the things we've identified and
Yes.
eliminating the other pieces we haven't identified. Maybe the longer list of the town and village parts should still stay until we get through there, but we have decided on the department. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I know,
So next meeting, we'll have something more reduced
there's,
in a slightly, in a different
In
format.
a format that's easier to work with.
Yeah, yeah.
there's a ton of stuff that Scott has mentioned that we're eligible or they're participating or applying for grants. But I'd like to, my emphasis would be on stuff that that we, you know, it would also give taxpayers a break, but we're not gonna have to spend tax money
How are we gonna keep it going?
fix something.
No, you just said you told them to keep this one
Ask
on.
them to keep that one.
Yeah.
And we'll go back through that one again. We'll have
Why?
a shorter list, well, because we haven't gone through, we haven't taken them all off yet. You wanna sit here another hour and do that?
No, I
Okay.
don't, I mean.
We can eliminate some of
They
these.
don't, they just
The
don't
ones
have
that
any,
you-
any
Yeah.
support. And-
Right, but he's going to send us another form with just the reduced one for each department, like we talked about, so we can review that. And that list, then we can whittle it down again.
Right.
So then by the next
Well,
meeting,
by
we'll
the
have
time you.
fewer things on it.
By the time you do our departments, you may not have anything left to put towards this anyway.
Right,
But yeah, possibly, that's possibly
Do you
true.
want the items removed that you all said, like the gatehouse?
Yeah.
ones that you said,
Yeah.
Apparently at this point, that's,
yeah, weatherization, I think we said,
The ones where you had the three.
yeah,
one of them.
we have one for department and a few
I'm
things
the
very
only one
mentioned.
that supported the gatehouse.
No, I agree on I agree the gatehouse should be done, we should, but we don't even have a figure on what it would take. We need some kind of idea
You need a champion for the
for the
gatehouse.
gatehouse. Because it's not historic anymore, because it's moved on to its
And once we
spot.
get a sense of the board, we will go back and develop real cost estimates before we make any real commitments to spend
Yeah.
real money. So it's not like the board doesn't get another bite of the apple.
No, it's true.
It just gives us something to focus and get you real estimates and real costs and real.
On the gatehouse, however, I must say, this board, you were on it and I was on it, made a commitment to the community to keep that building taken care of.
I said that I would be happy to contribute my time
Uh-huh,
if somebody champions this project, okay? I can go up and paint, I can go do this and that,
right,
okay? I'm a ready, willing volunteer.
okay,
That's what I say.
right. And then I
And I
asked,
did, and I don't think we should spend any taxpayer money. That's
Okay.
why I said that.
okay, well, ARPA funds ain't taxpayer money that way.
Yeah.
They
but I know.
are, eventually, every penny is ours, some way or another.
I mean, I think it looked to me like, for example, on the Sally board, that there were two people that made it top priority and three just did, okay? All right, my feeling is you look at this money and you say, what would I never have done if I didn't get this gift? We're gonna be this village is gonna be in the police business forever, okay? We are gonna be in the police business forever. And to have something like that as a part of a police department makes a heck of a lot of sense, okay? So, would I put a warrant on the town or the village to fund that? No,
No,
but this here sort of gives us a chance to say, hey, maybe we can make something like that a reality. This is something, like I said, we're gonna be in the police business forever. Solar, you build a solar panel, how long do they last? 20 years?
15.
Huh?
2025.
15 years. Okay, so it's
That's a range there.
it's a, and
That is.
so I'm looking, I wanted to look at these things as something that would be,
So we've got an $800,000 Sally port that needs maintenance and is.
and now it's tax dollars.
It's gonna also have,
Yeah.
maintenance and everything else, and yeah, you are gonna commit to a, police department once you do that.
well, we already are.
Well,
We're fully committed.
There is,
We're-
I'm
we're
just,
dumping
one sentence is that I think we may be
$30,000 a year
local,
into that
we
building.
may be turning that into something different over time. I think there'll be community desire to move it into a more town-based police department. We'll see how that goes. Wade wants to say something.
I just wanted to say that I still actually do support the Sally Port, but I know there was some discussion a while back about getting some rough numbers.
We do have rough
You
numbers.
got rough numbers?
Yes.
I just wanted to add to that only because I've been in a couple lately, that even if we had to scale that Sally Port back from like 2 bays to 1, to me, it would still be better than nothing at all. And I don't know how much that would affect the overall cost, but
Right.
just to me, it's worth looking at maybe instead of 2 bays or 1 bay. But still have it function as a Sally Port. Just to save some money, but still make it happen. Just an option.
Yeah, well, I think that, I look at the Sally Port in Springfield. They tacked that onto the building. It's not the same style or anything else
Right.
added on. I mean, if you wanna make it brick, a brick veneer and all, this kind of fancy stuff to mesh with the building, I don't know, but we haven't seen the numbers. We haven't seen the numbers. And maybe we won't see the numbers, but to invest in the cloud, where we're already investing in the cloud, sort of like, but anyway.
Next meeting, we'll go at it again. Let's see, that if we're good, we can move on to the end of the meeting information, review agenda items for next meeting. We know that'll be on there.
Yes.
What else are we gonna see
I don't have anything else at the moment.
in mind? All right, if you have any ideas for.
When's the next?
Next one is April 25th,
25th.
2023.
You'll be all pleased to know I will not be here.
Oh, no.
We will, oh, nice, you can send your comments along
In
anytime.
California.
Well, if Gary puts that back out again, you'll get to answer, when are you leaving?
I leave on the 20th.
Okay, so if you could get that out before the 20th, Gary, that way, he can have input.
Well, if you do it by email.
Yeah.
you can get it.
You can get it anytime, okay.
But I must admit that last sheet was pretty hard to read.
Mhm, it was.
Yeah.
Easier on your computer, you can make it larger.
Well, maybe we should consider the village
Oh.
improving the lights in this building. That'd be a nice,
Yes, the ongoing conversation
gesture.
for the last
We don't
20
own
years
the
or more.
I mean, just
Yeah.
the meeting room.
Oh, review agenda items for the joint board meeting on May 30th, 2023, and
Sidewalks.
Yeah, put sidewalks.
sidewalks.
Sounds like
and
sidewalks.
Maybe the LEMP, yeah, so, someone said, why didn't, Sackers River get input in how they felt how the event had happened?
Why don't we put lighting in this room on there too?
That's what I just said.
The lower theater in general needs a lot of attention.
Yeah, and-
It's a whole different
Well, I'm
conversation.
just, I think, if you went out and found the bulbs and LED in natural light, it'd be a hell of an improvement in there.
It's really not a very good event.
Yeah, I don't think it would
Look at the
cost a
wires.
lot.
Every time we have a meeting, have to go all across and they don't, nothing works appropriately. Like, at least.
If we're
every
gonna
other
make this a
meeting,
permanent technology, I have to get this
Yeah.
thing mounted on a wall with
Yeah.
a separate sort of
where it won't
setup.
get moved and jostled every time.
Correct.
And if it's, and for the long term.
So I'm not
yeah.
cursing at Jeff. It's 6:30 at night.
Yeah.
We
So I
want,
apologize for that,
want the
Jeff.
train to run on time here.
That's right. Well, I mean, we've been doing this since the beginning of COVID, and yet somehow there's always some glitch.
Unfortunately, this room is always being used, and so it
For
doesn't stay.
multiple, yeah.
It's not locked, right?
Yeah, which is why, yeah, things get moved around
Correct.
every time. So, yeah, if they were mounted, then you
frustrating.
wouldn't have all that wiring or.
It would just be
possibilities of-
set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Review and approve orders, bills and warrants. Need a motion for
So
that.
moved.
In a second,
Seconded.
all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, other business, let's see, Wade,
Also.
Jeff,
Okay.
Jake.
Also,
I just want to say one thing. If you're gonna run for public office, you ought to turn up at meetings. I'm just saying that, because that's what I see every time someone runs. They don't get invested in the community meetings to see what we're actually doing. But they run anyway. Stefan,
All set.
Scott,
All good.
okay. All right, no need for an executive session this evening. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Seconded.
Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
This meeting was recorded by Falls Area Community Television, located at 1 Hospital Court, Bellows Falls, Vermont. If you would like a copy of the meeting, our phone number is 802-463-1613, or email us at fact810@gmail.com. Falls Area Community TV, keeping government honest.